Fantastic. Thanks, Lane. I appreciate it. And
You
everything you
got it.
did just for us to get to this point, 1 o'clock on Tuesday. I appreciate it very much.
You
Thank
got
you
that.
for everybody for jumping on. We all do know each other. We've all met. So half of what I was going to say, I don't have to say now. And I can't lie about anything either. So I'll have to be totally 100%. So a couple of things I want to accomplish today. I'm going to get you guys to know me just a little bit better, a little bit more in the background, how I got into the industry. I'm going to explain exactly what we do, because class action is a very large term. And then, probably most important, how you might be able to benefit from what we do in our services. So I'll start back with my background here and how I landed here. I spent about 20 years in the bread and cake distribution out of college. I was on the streets of the South Bronx mostly for about 20 years, dodging bullets and everything else they threw. If any of you remember the movie Bronx is Burning? Okay, I was right in the middle of it, and I could tell you it was burning all around. It was a very interesting time. I learned a lot. I learned that at a certain point in time, it was good to get out. So I got out of an industry where, you kind of took your life in your hands many days because, when you're starting a family, you do what you got to do. And I got involved in an industry, fast forwarding, where the only way you made money is if somebody sued somebody. Some days, I don't know if I went from bad to worse, but it's all good. So around 2005, 2006, I started working for a class action recovery company in New York. I knew nothing about the industry. I've been out of work for a little bit. A friend of mine got me in. And I'm in a room with about 40 or 50 people making phone calls. You ever saw the movie Wall Street? It wasn't far from that. Okay, it's very high energy, very intense. And the idea was we were calling companies, not just here in the States, but also internationally, and letting them know that they might be owed some money back on these class action settlements. So I was calling Dallas, Texas, Copenhagen, Denmark, and everywhere in between. It kind of blew my mind, but as long as they spoke English, I felt I was okay. And I kind of earned my stripes doing that. We were making 125, 150 cold calls a day, and I learned the ropes. I learned the front end of things. I was very intrigued by the industry. I was just telling Lane a few minutes ago, it seemed like the owners only showed up when they got paid. And that caught my eye. I said, I'd like to get that job. And of course, they had to do the same thing when they started their company. But I liked it. I liked the challenge of looking for gold. You're out there looking for gold, trying to match up opportunity with companies. I thought it was cool. I didn't mind the challenge, and it was a challenge. Fast forward a little bit after that, started my first company with two other gentlemen, and we had about a 10, 11-year run. And what I didn't know before, I learned during that period of time. I learned the business end of things. I learned how to really make money in this industry. I learned some of the pitfalls, things not to do, as well as to do, because again, we're in an industry where the only way things happen is when someone sues somebody, which means everyone's got their antennas up, which means if you're not on a straight and narrow, you can get caught up in that. And one of my jobs was to make sure we did things right. I remember one of the first meetings I had with my ex-partners, they go, look, we're going to agree right now, we're never going to get sued. And I said, guys, hold on, you're going a little bit too fast here. Let me explain some facts to you about this industry. If we do these things here, we will not, we'll have to worry about it, and we'll all do very well. And thankfully we did. But I had a vision to move things on, and I was only going to get so far there, and I'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. So we started, after that, I started this company right in the middle of COVID, which is a phenomenal time to start a company right in the middle of COVID. I don't know if anyone else did. So let me backtrack for a moment here. I'm going to tell you exactly what class action recovery is, because that term is out there and it means a lot different things to different people. Okay. I'm going to read you a definition. In a class action, people or businesses called plaintiffs sue not only for themselves, but also on behalf of other people or businesses with similar legal claims and interests. Together, all of these people or businesses with similar claims and interests form a class. Such we come up with class action recovery. Okay. Now, has anyone ever received a card in the mail And it said, if you fill this out, you'll get $10 in a tube of toothpaste. Anyone ever got one of those? Okay. We don't do that. Okay. So you can listen again. We definitely don't do that. We work on B2B settlements where companies sue other companies that they were customers of. All right. And the cases that we work on all have to do with price fixing. Now we have to say alleged price fixing because these companies settle. Where they walk away, no admission of guilt, but they settle. Okay, so we could take that for what it's worth there. We work on cases that, and I've worked on cases that involve hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements and billions of dollars. I'm going to talk about a few today where there's billions of dollars available in settlement money. Okay, we work on cases that involve direct purchasing and indirect purchasing of companies. Okay, now price fixing conspiracies, here's the result of that. It results in businesses and consumers paying artificially inflated prices for goods and services. Now, what class actions do is they help return a portion of those inflated prices to the victims of such conspiracies, being, in this case, our clients, companies that were found to be overcharged by companies that they're doing business with. So what do? After all that, we file claims on behalf of eligible claimants, companies, against settlements for companies that have already settled the cases or in the process of doing that. We only take cases on when we know they're going to close or have already closed. Maybe all the companies haven't settled yet, but usually one or two have. All right, there's many cases out there, and one of the things I learned through the years is what's a good opportunity and when is one to leave to other people we want to get involved in. A couple of things about our services. There's no out-of-pocket cost. This is a free shot for companies to get money back. According to the legal process, they're owed this money back. There's no legal exposure or involvement by us or someone that signs up. Okay, it's very, very clean. Our clients enter into a contingency-based agreement with us. Now, in the past, just to give you a little idea of how vast this type of industry is and this abuse, which is really what it comes down to. All right, I won't bore you, but the Sherman Act is something that was enacted years ago. And there's certain things businesses cannot do. And when they do, this is the result, class action settlements. Okay, one of the things you can't do is you can't price fix. You can't collude at the expense of merchants or your customers. And allegedly, that's what these companies have done, allegedly. I've worked on cases involving air cargo shipping. It was the first case I worked on, 40 major airlines. Some of you might have, if you might remember, it was all over the papers going back. Lufthansa was involved in something to do with the lawsuit. It was all over the papers going back. That's when I got involved in this. I was hired by the first company to work this case. It turns out they were one of about 40 major airlines that were price fixing. They colluded. Well over $1 billion settlement when it was all said and done. Worked on case involving freight forwarder services. All the major freight forwarders, not just here in the States, but internationally. CRT products. If any of you, some of you guys do remember the old cathode ray tube TVs before flat screens. Okay, major settlements on those. They price fixed. Container boards. All right, the last thing you think about in the morning, container boards. You need some of that product, you go to the store, you buy it. They price fix that. Drywall. Worked on numerous auto parts. Auto parts is ripe for these types of abuses. Worked on cases well over $2 billion in settlements. We have a new one that's just popped up across the border in Canada, as a matter of fact. We're waiting on payment probably by the end of next month on one of the auto parts because they break these cases up. Numerous electronics products, anything from computers, laptops, disk drives, microchips, optical disk drives. To this day, if you put an optical disk drive in front of me, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's a multiple billion-dollar settlement. And these products are, if you look at your computer, multiple parts of our computers have been price fixed or in the process of being price fixed as we speak. And this is just to name a few. I could spend a half hour just talking about cases in the past, but I just want to give you an idea how vast this is. I've also worked on cases involving price fixing of eggs, of milk, and other staple items. Okay. Companies that have been involved in these settlements. This is just a small sampling because we only have so much time. Companies like LG Electronics, Mitsubishi, Panasonic, Philips, Samsung, Hitachi, Sharp, Toshiba, Gibson, Micron, any airline you could think of, anyone that begins with air, whether it be Canada, US Airways, China, Cathay, just go down the line, just fill in the blank, air, something. They're involved in price fixing or have been, internationals as well. This is rampant in the business industry. Okay, this type of abuse. Now, how much money is involved here, and how does this all work? Well, I remember the first case I got paid on, the first company I signed up was a very small company in North Carolina. I think my commission was about $10. It didn't matter because I completed the loop. I finally got one, and I was okay with that. All right, I looked past that. I said, if I can get one, I can get as many as I want. We've gotten back money for companies anywhere from a couple $100 to, for example, over $3,000 for a major college in Kansas, $5,000 for a major building supply company in New Mexico, over $5,000 for a bakery wholesaler in Illinois, over $4,000 for a retail store in, I believe that was Brooklyn, if I remember right, New York. The biggest one to date that I've been involved in was a company I started calling off a list. And I won't tell you how many dozens of calls I made. And the reason I stayed with it was I knew there was a match between the case we were working and this company, because I did just enough research. I said, if I can get the right guy, this would be really good. Long story short, they turned out to be the largest distributor of electronics in South America. They were based in Miami, Florida. I got the right guy. It was at the 11th hour. They were ready to sign, and then they wiped out their whole management team. I was fired up. That was months of work. But I knew there was a match. I just stayed with it. And thankfully, the next management team said, hey, this is cool. Long story short, we went down to Florida to deliver a check to them, and we slid it across the table. And they go, oh, this is great. We got a check for 40 grand. Guys, you did a great job. Except for it wasn't 40, it was 400 grand. Since then, they signed up anything we put in front of them. That's what happens when you get money for companies. And we just got a check over the last 3 or 4 months, which was nowhere near that, but it was a nice shot, because when you get these companies back money, they realize that this is real, doesn't cost them anything, no out-of-pocket cost. So what happened was, going back during the COVID process, it really slowed this industry down, which again was a perfect time to start the company. But it's gotten back to normal now. And since the first of this year, this industry has become flush with opportunity. More cases are coming out, more than we can handle. I'm going to talk about a few right now. I'm going to introduce a few as well that we're going to open up now. First, I will talk about the Visa MasterCard case. I've spoken with numerous of you about this already. Visa MasterCard were found to be overcharging on their interchange fees from 2004 to 2019, which means any entity that accepted the cards during that period of time is eligible for a refund on a percentage basis. Now, this actually is the second time that Visa MasterCard were called on this. They were, before I got in the industry in the early 2000s, they settled, I think, for about $3.5 billion. It's extremely profitable. They just continue the behavior, sell for over $6 billion now, which is sitting in escrow. All right, we probably have till the end of this year to sign companies up. It might go into early next year. I'm not really sure, but it's there. It's a great door opener to other opportunities. Okay. We're opening up 7 new food cases. And these cases, believe it or not, have to do with price fixing of turkeys, beef, chicken, tuna, and companies such as Butterball, Cargill, AgriStats, and Purdue, just to name a few. These are major manufacturers in those industries that affect, among other industries, the hospitality industry big time. And that's one of the focuses, and I'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. But these are huge cases. And the reason we're opening up 6 or 7 at one time, which I've never done before, I'll probably never do it again. But the reason I'm doing it is because they're all interrelated. If you sign up a company that qualifies for one of these, you'll probably get them to sign up for 3 or 4 at the same time, because they're all interrelated. Okay, that's why we decided to do that. We're monitoring right now cases, a major dental industry case. Don't know what it's going to be. I expect this to be a very large settlement, because it should affect most dental offices in the States, in the United States. We just got information over the last week on this one, Energizer batteries. Here's a cool thing about this industry. You never know what's coming down the pike. I could never have predicted Energizer batteries. It just popped over the last week involving not just Energizer, but Walmart as well for direct as well as indirect purchases. So again, we're going through that information now, but it's a live case that's coming. Looks like they're either settled or one of them have already settled. I got to get back to it. There's numerous other cases we're watching. Again, we could handle so many at one time, but there's no shortage of opportunities, the bottom line. As far as Canada goes, for our friends in Canada, with Rudra and Alex that are on here today through our affiliate Consulting Canada, there's new cases in Canada involving auto parts, electronic components found in computers and other devices. There's also other cases in Canada that are live that we're looking to handle as well. So bottom line is there's no shortage. Okay. So who are we looking for? Who are we looking to reach out to? Who are we looking to do business with? Now, I always tell people, look, we'll sign up Joe's Pizza. So I'm very partial to pizza. We'll sign up Joe's Pizza. Why? Because Joe's Pizza usually belongs to a larger organization. Okay, so we'll sign him up, but we'll say, hey, do you know any other pizzerias? Of course they do. All right. Real quick, in our previous company, we had a girl who signed up one Greek restaurant in New York. Little girl, and she just said, hey, because we trained her, she said, hey, always ask if you know anyone else with a like business. She goes, hey, do you know anyone else who owns a Greek restaurant? And very proudly, Greek restaurant owner said, I belong to an organization, 900 Greek restaurants. We got involved with them. We got an introduction there, and we started to sign up a lot of those companies. So one leads to a lot. So we will sign up Joe's Pizza. However, what we really are partial to are organizations, group purchasing organizations, buying groups. They go by different names. But there's also an office there that works on behalf of the membership to keep prices down. Some of you are very familiar with that in what you do. We signed up our first restaurant group a little bit over a year ago. They actually are in upstate New York, and it's worked out extremely well. We signed up many of their members on not just the Visa MasterCard case, but now we're going to be introducing all these food cases, which they all qualify for in one way or another. And also what we're going to be, there's other financial products that we'll be able eventually to introduce them to. What they just did recently is they opened up their entire vendor list to us. Their vendor list will eventually do more business than their membership based on what I've seen so far. So again, you never know. Again, I'm talking to the choir here. You never know what door is going to open up when you go through the first door. But we are definitely looking for people that have contacts with business organizations, that have influence, that we can explain the benefits for their members, and they all share in the profits. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. We do have a referral program, with compensation. I remember the first time I had dinner or lunch with Alan, and I had that conversation. I said, Alan, I want to be really upfront. I'm very transparent. I said, it's great when someone sends business. I appreciate that. But my feeling is if you don't compensate them, they'll do it once to be a good guy. And I appreciate that. They'll do it more if you pay them. So that's been my philosophy from day one. When we had over 100 account execs in our previous company, and we had as strong and a robust compensation program as possible, because I always felt incentivize the people will bring the business in. We're working with an affiliate now. I just mentioned them in Canada through Rudra and Alex, as well as another affiliate out west, which is offering other financial products. Lane just recently introduced me to a gentleman down in the city who we're going to be following up with. And I know, Lane, that's going to open up some other doors for us, no doubt about that. And really, I just feel like we're just getting started. The vision here, which I had in the first company, which I was not going to be able to achieve, was a couple of things. The first thing is we want to have over 100 account execs worldwide. because this is not a border to border opportunity. This is a worldwide opportunity. My eyes were opened again when I started in the industry, and I'm calling in places I probably couldn't find on a map at the time. And it just opened up my mind and said, hey, this opportunity is available to anyone, companies all over the world. So we're looking for have 100 account execs all around the world, building their own book of business with our help. And the way I envisioned our first company, and obviously this company, was do a couple of things. Create opportunities where everybody wins. The account exec, the person that refers business, of course. The client, the claimant, because without them, there's no industry. All right, get their money back that according to these settlements and the legal process, they're owed this money. And we get to build our company. And my main motivation, going back to the first company, really, this is something that I thought about for a real long time. I always wanted to build something that would outlast me. Otherwise, if I just work, I'm not putting jobs down, but I didn't want to do something where, okay, well, I did mine, now you got to go do yours. And what benefit do I get, do my family get besides some money now? I wanted to do something bigger and longer lasting than that. So the name of our company is KM Stephen and Company. Now, Stephen is here. So you can see the Stephen. Maybe one day you guys will meet K&M, Kristen and Megan, our daughters. And that's a real motivation, really, for me. It gets me to do stuff when I don't want to do it, because it's not about me. It's not about us. It's about, the next generation. So we're building this company so that our kids can benefit. All right, for whatever that's worth. I just wanted to throw that out there because it's a real motivation, for me. I'm pretty much done. I don't like long meetings. I know none of us do. I think hopefully I gave you enough to get a better idea to achieve what I really wanted to achieve. Get to know me a little bit better, get an idea of what we do, and how you might be able to benefit. So Lane, I'm open to any questions. I'll turn it back to you for any questions or concerns. I just want to real quick, number one, thank all of you for joining in today. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's not the most convenient time. Number two, I want to thank, Lane and Alan for what they do, and Kim also in the back end there, always helping out. And just the environment that you guys have created. I really think it's phenomenal. I think you guys are just getting started. I really do. And we hope to grow our company as you grow V50. If we can keep up with you, I think we'll be doing, pretty good.
Appreciate that. And yeah, definitely, very informative, great presentation. Glad we do have a little time for Q&A. Two questions for you. One direct, by what you were saying, I thought of something. So one of my biggest customers is a global publicly traded advertising firm. I have direct lines into their global procurement because they have to work with me when I do their work. Global procurement is also responsible for everything they purchase for that advertising agency globally. Is that a candidate for you? It's possible. It's worth the conversation. It's absolutely worth the conversation, because I would have a couple of questions back, which we can talk offline. But it's definitely worth, because it sounds very all encompassing. Yeah, everything from pencils and brooms and cleaning supplies to water, food, everything has to go through global procurement. Yeah, that's worth the conversation. Not just on the Visa MasterCard case, by the way. Yeah. Secondly, second question, you use the Visa MasterCard case. You engage with a company, small, medium, big, whatever. What's kind of the life cycle from the first introduction to them to the time you can put a check into their hands? What's that average? How long does that usually take? Yeah, that's the question we most get asked. I sign up a client. Okay, when are we going to get paid? It takes time. Right now, anyone that's asking, I'm saying 2 years, but I don't know exactly, because again, in the legal profession, legal industry, you never know. But this case here has gotten through some hurdles over the last 3-4 months, I'll say, that were held up by COVID. There's sometimes things come up that we have no control really over any of it. Here's what I tell people.
this, number one, this is found money. If we didn't have this conversation, you wouldn't have a chance of getting this money back. That's number one. Number two, it doesn't cost you anything. There's no out-of-pocket cost. Timelines are different for different cases. Some I've seen getting paid back in 10 to 12 months. Some could take, 2 to 3 years. It just really depends. Now, the Visa MasterCard case has been around long enough now where, again, I think I'm planning on by the end of this year, we're not going to be able to sign anyone else up. I can't prove that in the court of law. It might go into the first quarter of next year. I speak to the attorneys every 3 weeks or so, and they can't give me an answer, and they shouldn't give an answer because they'd be liable if they did. Plus, they don't necessarily know either. That's why I really focus on the fact that it's found money and doesn't cost you anything out of pocket, and we'll keep you up to date.
Thank you.
Joe, is American Express included in there or no? Because you never mentioned American Express.
I'll say not yet, not on this case. However, usually when major players in an industry are involved in something like this, it's just a matter of time. I did see something about them, and again, the answer is no, not right now. Same thing with Discover. However, I know that there's stuff going on. Nothing I could show you or prove to you, but again, it's an industry that is rampant for this type of behavior.
So Gypsum, the manufacturer of sheetrock, was involved in this also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Gypsum and the other major ones. Yeah. They were involved in a drywall case.
So how would you, like, in other words, you would need to know a drywall contractor who bought gypsum at certain time? Like, how would we help you?
Well, that one there, that's closed. That was a previous
Okay.
case.
Got it.
Doesn't mean that there won't be others with other manufacturers, because again, once something happens in an industry, it's going to happen again. For example, here, just at these electronics cases, LG, Panasonic, Samsung, Hitachi, Sharp, Toshiba, I'll bet you I've worked 5 or 6 cases so far involving all of them. And I know that there's more coming, not just here, but also in Canada. So when they do it, the behavior, they do it. They don't stop it because it's profitable to the companies. They pay pennies on the dollar. That's why
So
they sell.
anyone who sold those products, like if we were to know someone in the, let's say in a PC Richard is entitled to get money back because they sold or they distributed those products. Is that fair to say or no?
In that case, there would be people that purchase. There's 2 types of purchases, there's direct and indirect. So number one, if PC Richard, for example, purchased directly from any of these guys here, they would be a direct purchaser and they would qualify. They would have qualified. The second class would be indirect purchasers, companies that purchased from PC Richard, but not directly with LG Electronics, for example. So there's 2 types of purchasers. That's why we're taking the cases on we're taking on now. The beef cases, for example, there are companies that purchase directly from the Cargills and the Tysons and the Butterballs of the world, but there's also companies that purchase from distributors who purchased from these manufacturers. So there's direct purchases and indirect purchases, because the abuse was the same. The price fixing was trickled down, and in the end, who really pays for it at the end of the day? The consumer. What recourse do we have? I'll let you know. I don't know. Sign up a lot of companies in class action, get some money back.
And Joe, when will the details on the hospitality cases be coming out?
I was going to get to that. I will send out to you guys that are here some information on those cases. Of course, Lane, you'll get a copy of everything I send out. Be a little bit more detail on those cases and what companies are involved and more of the details. Anyone that wants more specific information, I don't suggest you take the information you got today and run with it, because you don't have enough information. I suggest that you reach out to me. We can have a one-on-one and tell me what your interest level is, and whatever it is you heard today. And I could help you get set up. Some cases, a couple of you are already set up, such as you, Patrick. Just a matter of you getting more information and the best way to approach companies and who to speak to in some cases at these companies. Because all of you, I believe all of you have a contact list out there. You have business contacts. We've all been around, except for Stephen. The question is, okay, well, how do we link up and give them the proper information so they can digest and say, hey, you know what, there's something here. What do we need to do? So I'd rather you not just take this and run. I'd rather we have at least one conversation. Let me get some information in your hands. We can review it just so you're more prepared to go out and be effective.
Love it. I already made a note to give you a call on Friday.
I'm waiting for the call.
Question? Joe?
Yes,
can I ask a
sir.
question?
Of course.
So, we've been trying here. One of the things that you said before, I'm finding is a little bit of a roadblock, which is, hey, if you wouldn't do this, you wouldn't have had the money anyway. And unless you're really big, it's not significant money. So I've approached a couple of people. Oh, it's so much work. I got to go get my information. I'm not a $10 million a year business. I'm only going to get a couple of cents. How do you get over that?
Well, number one, I always look at it this way. I always tried to widen the net. I never talked to just a couple of people about anything. That's sales 101. I think we all know that. Second thing is, who are we really shooting for? So that might be worth us having a conversation, Jay, because in some cases they might be right. We might have to shoot a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'll go back to Joe's Pizza because I always do. Hey, Joe, listen, you're right. You might not get much, but how about this? There's referral fees that the company pays. Why don't we have a conversation? You know other pizza guys. Maybe we could involve you in the compensation. Open up that door, because you might be right. I've spoken to companies, not a lot, because at a certain point you kind of know where you want to go. And I've heard the same thing, and I open up other doors. I give them other things to think about. I said, besides, you might qualify for a new case a year from now that's just not on the docket yet. So it'd be a good way if you get involved. Plus, it doesn't cost you anything. And by the way, they're not asking for records. And if you're small enough, they're never going to ask you for your records anyway. We're just looking for estimates. So again,
Right.
That's why it's worth us having a real conversation, so you're prepared, because we know the questions they're going to get on any case. And I try to get them answered before the conversation starts. I really try to do that. You're not going to get all of them answered, but we can get most of them because I've heard them all. I know what the questions a prospective client's going to ask. How long is it? When am I going to get my money? How much am I going to get? Those are the two most asked. And I got to go get these records, because in our industry, sometimes there are companies that will not qualify someone. They'll just sign them up, and then they put them through. It's like they went to the dentist for a root canal just to get back $100. It's not necessary. So I tell people up front, here's what we need. We don't need information from you right now. And in this Visa MasterCard, for example, there's going to be a certain threshold that the courts are going to say, below this, we're just going to verify that you're in business. They'll look at tax IDs, addresses, whatever, because there's no way that they can go through every claimant and say, okay, we need invoices going back to 2004. First off, companies do not have to hold on to their information more than 7 years. The courts know that. But again, someone like that, Jay, might have had a previous experience. That was a total pain in the neck. I don't blame him for saying that. But again, there's another way to explain it to him where he'll go, oh, okay, I thought I had to do this. Thought I had to do that. I guess I don't. No, you don't. Just give us best estimates, and we'll keep you up to date on what's going on, and we'll be your watchdog for other opportunities that we could add to your company's bottom line.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? This is great, Joe. Appreciate your time you put into this. Very informative.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. And again, can't thank you enough, Lane, for taking the time. You're in the middle of a work day. I know it's not easy and you ran from here to there and there to here. You guys all know how to get a hold of me. So I look forward to having conversations. And again, I wouldn't talk to anyone until we have a conversation. That'll be just a level of frustration you don't need for no good reason, because you could push away a prospective client that could be a big doorway to other business just by giving them a little bit of the wrong information, or give them a feeling like, you know what, this is going to be a pain in the neck. I'm not going to bother with it. Where if they got the proper information, they might be, and what I find is in most cases, they're open to it if it's explained to them correctly. Does that mean everyone's going to be involved? You know, not everyone loves chocolate ice cream. I don't get it. But not everyone is going to go for everything all the time, but we play the numbers. I believe in playing the numbers game. That's what I believe in this type of work that really just about all of us do, pretty much. You know, if we stopped at 2 no's, we'd be doing something else. All of us.
Joe, hi. I just had this one question which someone asked me when I actually mentioned this to them in a recent in-person conference here. So there's a perception going on that the Visa MasterCard case, I mean, the cutoff has already been reached, and you know that the court is not entertaining new claimants. Is that so, or till when are they going to entertain new claimants?
In Canada, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
Not in the States, not in the States, but Canada, definitely. Yeah, I don't know if Alex is still on, but I mentioned that they're going back, but he's right. However, there are cases which me, you, and Alex will talk about next week. There's plenty in Canada. There's plenty of opportunity.
Looking forward to it, Joe.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I'm good if you guys are good. Any other questions? I'm here to help any way I can.
Yeah, nice job.
Have an amazing one. Yeah, good stuff.
Thanks, Joe.
Great refreshing of your business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to hear about it again. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And as I told Elaine, hopefully maybe another 3 months or so, I'll do another one. But in the meantime, I'm easy to get. You guys all know I'm very easy to get, and I'd love to get together with you guys one-on-one. Whoever wants to move it forward, wants to discuss anything with contacts that you have and how to go about doing it. I'm definitely open to that. Absolutely.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
Thanks again, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.